Well, Nicaragua President Daniel Ortega's government is taking aim at higher education, effectively shutting down several colleges and universities. The government says the schools broke the law, but the critics say it's the latest example that shows Mr. Ortega tightening his grip on power. CNN's Rafael Romo reports.
Political rivals and opposition activists were targeted first. Protesting students were next. Soon, not even those who at one point were political allies and comrades in arms were safe. And now the government of Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega is cracking down on colleges and universities.
It is the second time that the Nicaraguan government has prevented me from finishing my university studies. Third, they arbitrarily expelled me from the public university in 2018, and now they are closing the private university where I was studying.
Elton Rivera says he had to flee the country because he was left without options for a higher education after he was expelled for participating in the 2018 anti-government protests. Earlier this month, the rubber-stamped National Assembly effectively shut down at least 12 colleges and universities. Authorities say the government will soon reopen them, but the institution will now be under the control of government officials. The National Assembly passed a law allowing the state to take over at least 6 of the universities. A Nicaraguan government report alleged these institutions were not transparent in how they handle their finances. It also accuses them of not filing financial reports as required by law, as well as changing administrators without notifying authorities.
Calidad, que es nuestro principal compromiso.
A quality higher education is our main commitment, as well as stability and lowering tuition, this education government official said on a state TV channel.
Nicaragua is a country occupied by its own police forces.
But critics like Ernesto Medina, a former president of Managua's American University, say this is just another example of a repressive regime trying to silence any remnants of dissent.
No public demonstrations are allowed. The independent press has been almost completely silenced. Many journalists are in jail or forced to go in exile.
Rivera, the former student, says he's not the only one who felt it was time to leave Nicaragua because he was afraid he would end up in jail or worse for participating in protests.
More or less 50 students are in my same situation because they are young activists and human rights defenders who disagree with the violence of the government against civil population in Nicaragua.
Daniel Ortega, who has ruled Nicaragua continuously since 2007, was re-elected to a 5th term in office in November in an election called a parody by the government of Canada and a pantomime by U.S. President Joe Biden. Last year, ahead of the election, dozens of opposition leaders, including 7 would-be presidential candidates, were detained by his forces, clearing the way for Ortega's victory. Rafael Romo, CNN, Atlanta.